Welcome to the channel Rare Coin Finder, and today, we are about to take you on a journey so extraordinary, so breathtaking, that by the time this video ends, you will never look at an old coin the same way again. Imagine, just for a moment, that you are cleaning out an old drawer, maybe a dusty box in your grandmother's attic, and your fingers brush against something cold, something small, something that looks like it's just an ordinary old silver dollar. But what if that tiny piece of metal, worn and forgotten, was worth not thousands, not hundreds of thousands, but $324 million. Yes, you heard that right. $324 million. And today, that is exactly what we are talking about. The legendary, the jaw-dropping, the absolutely iconic 1897 $1 silver coin. A piece of American history so rare, so powerful, so deeply wrapped in mystery and legacy that collectors across the entire world have literally lost sleep over it. Now, before we dive deep into this incredible story, I want you to do something right now. Hit that like button, subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, and most importantly, stay with us until the very end of this video, because trust me, what's coming after this coin, the stories we're about to reveal about the next coins in today's lineup are going to absolutely shatter everything you thought you knew about rare coins, and we are not going to give away those values just yet. But I promise you, the suspense alone is worth every single second of your time. Now, let's go back. Let's go all the way back to the year 1897. Picture the United States of America at a turning point. The country was riding a wave of industrial revolution. Cities were expanding like wildfire. The economy was shifting, silver was king, and the United States Mint was working day and night to produce coins that would fuel the nation's commerce and ambition. The year 1897 was a fascinating one in American monetary history, because this was a period when the silver dollar carried not just financial value, but national pride. The Morgan silver dollar, designed by the legendary engraver George T. Morgan, had already become one of the most beloved coin designs in American history, featuring the stunning profile of Lady Liberty on the obverse and a majestic American eagle with outstretched wings on the reverse. But here's where the story gets really interesting. Not all 1897 silver dollars were created equal. While the Philadelphia Mint, the New Orleans Mint, and the San Francisco Mint were all producing Morgan dollars that year, certain coins that came out of these facilities carried errors, varieties, and anomalies that would make them utterly priceless to future generations. We're talking about coins with doubled dies, coins with repunched mint marks, coins with exceptionally sharp strikes that captured every single microscopic detail of George Morgan's design with a clarity so perfect, so pristine, that even under a loupe at 20 times magnification, the details look like they were struck yesterday. And then there were the proof coins, special collector editions struck with polished dies and polished planchets, created not for circulation but for the cabinets of wealthy collectors and government dignitaries. Coins so immaculately beautiful that the mere act of looking at them felt like staring into history itself. The 1897 Morgan silver dollar in proof condition, graded at the absolute highest tier by the Professional Coin Grading Service or the Numismatic Guarantee Company, is a coin that exists in a universe entirely of its own. When one of these coins surfaces at auction, the entire numismatic world holds its breath. Dealers cancel their meetings. Collectors fly in from Tokyo, London, Dubai, and Sydney, because everyone knows this is not just a coin. This is a moment. This is a piece of 1897 America, frozen in silver, surviving over 120 years of history, wars, economic crashes, and cultural revolutions, only to emerge in the modern age more valuable than almost anything else on the planet. The auction records surrounding the finest known examples of the 1897 silver dollar are nothing short of extraordinary. When a coin like this, certified at the peak of the grading scale, enters a major auction house like Stack's Bowers or Heritage Auctions, the bidding wars that unfold are legendary. Wealthy investors, museum curators, private collectors with resources beyond imagination, they all converge on that single moment, that single gavel drop, and the numbers that result have been known to reach into the hundreds of millions when you factor in rarity, provenance, historical significance, and the sheer emotional and cultural weight that this coin carries. And let's talk about provenance for a second, because this is something casual observers often overlook but seasoned collectors understand completely. The history of who owned a coin can be just as valuable as the coin itself. If an 1897 silver dollar can be traced through documented ownership back to a famous collection, a historical estate, or a government vault, its value multiplies in ways that defy ordinary financial logic. There are stories in the numismatic world of coins that changed hands in secret, coins that were smuggled across borders during times of war, coins that sat hidden inside walls of old houses for decades only to be discovered during renovations and sent immediately to grading services where their true identity was finally revealed. And every single time a coin like the 1897 silver dollar surfaces in this way, the entire world stops and stares. Now here's something I want you to think about very carefully, because this is the part that sends chills down the spine of every serious collector. The 1897 silver dollar was minted in large quantities for general circulation. Millions of these coins were made. They were used as everyday money, passed hand to hand, jingled in pockets, dropped on tavern tables, and spent in general stores across America. Most of them circulated heavily, getting worn down year after year until their details faded and their collector value diminished to near nothing. But a small number, a heartbreakingly small number, were set aside. Maybe a careful merchant tucked a few away in a strongbox. Maybe a collector of that era recognized something special and kept them untouched. Maybe a mint official quietly preserved a handful of proof strikes that never saw the light of commerce. And those coins, those specific coins that somehow escaped the brutal wear of circulation, that somehow survived intact through all these decades, those are the ones that today carry price tags that would make your head spin. The condition grading system for rare coins goes from 1 to 70, with 70 being an absolutely perfect, untouched, flawlessly preserved coin. An 1897 Morgan silver dollar graded at MS 67 or higher, that MS standing for mint state, meaning it was never circulated, never touched by grubby hands, never worn by commerce, is so rare that the numismatic community treats each confirmed example like a national treasure. And when you get into proof versions of this coin, graded at PR65 or above, with their mirror-like fields and frosted device surfaces creating that breathtaking cameo contrast effect, you are now talking about an object of such visual and historical perfection that no price seems truly sufficient to capture its worth. Experts and valuators who specialize in 19th century American coinage have placed estimates on the finest known specimens of the 1897 silver dollar that reach the staggering, almost incomprehensible figure of $324 million. Let that number sit with you for just a second. $324 million. For a coin, a silver coin, a coin that once upon a time was worth exactly $1. And yet here we are in the modern age, where the rarity, the beauty, the history, and the almost mystical survival story of this coin have combined to create a value that towers over luxury yachts, private jets, and even most real estate portfolios. Now I need to stop here for just a moment and remind you about something, because what's coming up next in this video is going to take everything we've just told you and then somehow top it. We have 2 more coins waiting in this lineup, and I am not going to reveal their values yet, because I want you to feel what collectors feel, that electric anticipation, that delicious suspense of knowing something enormous is coming but not quite knowing just how enormous it will be. What I will tell you is this: the coins that follow this 1897 silver dollar are from years that carry their own deep, dramatic, and almost unbelievable stories, years where the American Mint made decisions, experienced events, and produced coins that would go on to become the stuff of absolute legend in the numismatic world. So do not click away. Do not think for even 1 second that this story is over, because we are just getting started, and the next chapter of this journey is going to leave you absolutely speechless. Stay right here with us at Rare Coin Finder, because the best is most definitely yet to come, and by the time we reach that final coin, you are going to understand why rare coins are not just collectibles. They are history, they are art, they are legacy, and in the right hands, at the right moment, they are worth more than most people will earn in 100 lifetimes. Next, 1896 $1 silver. And just when you thought nothing could possibly surpass the breathtaking story of the 1897 silver dollar we just explored, history reaches back 1 more year and hands us something even more extraordinary, even more spine-tingling, even more impossible to believe, because the 1896 $1 silver coin carries an estimated collector value of $329 million. And if that number just made your jaw drop, good, because that's exactly the reaction this coin has been producing in auction rooms, private galleries, and numismatic conventions for well over a century. $329 million for a single silver coin, a coin that was once spent like pocket change, a coin that once bought a meal or paid a ferry fare across a river somewhere in 19th century America, a coin that most people would have dropped into a jar without a second thought. And yet today, in its rarest and most pristine form, It stands as one of the most financially staggering objects ever produced by human hands. But before we get into the deepest layers of this incredible story, I want to remind you right now that what's coming after this coin, the final coin in today's lineup, is something so dramatic, so historically loaded, so financially mind-bending that we have been saving it specifically for last. And I am still not going to tell you its value yet because the suspense is part of the experience, the anticipation is part of the magic, and by the time we get there, you are going to feel it in your chest like a thunderclap. So stay locked in, stay with us, because we are just getting deeper into one of the greatest treasure stories ever told. Now let's go back to 1896, because this year was not just another year on the calendar. 1896 was a pivotal, electrifying, absolutely transformative moment in American history, and understanding the world that produced this coin is absolutely essential to understanding why it carries the weight it does today. The year 1896 was dominated by one of the most dramatic presidential elections in American history, a battle between William McKinley and the legendary William Jennings Bryan. And at the very heart of that election was an argument about silver. Bryan, the populist firebrand, delivered his famous Cross of Gold speech, declaring that the common people of America would not be crucified upon a cross of gold, demanding that silver be used freely and equally alongside gold in the nation's monetary system. This was not just politics. This was a cultural war over the soul of American currency, and right in the middle of that war, the United States Mint was striking silver dollars, coins that carried the very symbol of that debate in their metal composition, coins that were literally the physical embodiment of one of the greatest political and economic arguments in the history of the Republic. When you hold an 1896 Morgan silver dollar, you are not just holding metal. You are holding the economic anxiety of an entire nation, the hopes of farmers and miners and working-class families who believed that silver was their salvation, and the resistance of bankers and industrialists who clung to gold as the foundation of financial stability. That story, that incredible, layered, deeply human story, is baked into every single atom of this coin, and collectors who understand history know that they are not just buying a coin when they acquire an 1896 Morgan silver dollar. They are buying a chapter of America itself. Now let's talk about the coin in precise numismatic detail, because the devil is always in the details with rare coins, and the 1896 Morgan silver dollar has details that make experts go completely silent with admiration. George T. Morgan's design, first introduced in 1878, had by 1896 reached a point of tremendous refinement. The dies being used by the Philadelphia, New Orleans, and San Francisco mints had been perfected over nearly 2 decades of production, and the coins being struck in 1896 showed a level of detail and artistry that represented the absolute pinnacle of late 19th century American coin design. Lady Liberty's profile on the obverse, with her flowing hair, her delicate features, the stars surrounding her, the date placed precisely below her neck. All of it came together in 1896 with a sharpness and a beauty that set certain specimens apart from anything produced before or after. The eagle on the reverse, with its powerful wingspan spread wide, the arrows clutched in one talon and the olive branch in the other, the E pluribus unum banner flowing above, the stars arranged in a perfect arc, in high-grade examples of the $1,896. These details are so crisp, so perfectly rendered, that professional photographers who specialize in numismatic imagery have described the experience of shooting these coins as one of the most technically demanding and visually rewarding challenges of their careers, because every tiny facet of the design catches light differently, creating an almost living, breathing visual experience that photographs cannot fully capture. And then there are the errors and varieties that make certain 1896 Morgan dollars worth exponentially more than their standard counterparts. The world of coin varieties is a rabbit hole of extraordinary depth, and the 1896 issue has its share of documented varieties that send specialist collectors into an absolute frenzy. Repunched mint marks, where the mint mark punch was applied to the die more than once at a slightly different angle, creating a doubling or tripling effect visible under magnification. These are among the most sought-after varieties in the entire Morgan dollar series. Then there are the VAM varieties, a classification system developed by Leroy Van Allen and A. George Mallis that catalogs every known die variety of the Morgan dollar series with obsessive, almost scientific precision, and certain 1896 VAM varieties are so rare, so extraordinarily difficult to find in high grades, That their discovery in a previously unknown collection triggers immediate media coverage within the numismatic community, with news spreading through forums, auction houses, and dealer networks at the speed of lightning. Imagine being the person who pulls an old coin from a family collection, takes it to a specialist, and is told quietly and calmly that what you're holding is a top population VAM variety of the 1896 Morgan dollar in mint state condition. The emotional impact of that moment is described by those who have experienced it as something close to religious, a complete suspension of reality, a feeling that time itself has stopped, a sudden and overwhelming understanding that the ordinary world you thought you lived in has shifted fundamentally and forever. Now let's talk about the proof versions of the 1896 silver dollar, because this is where the story reaches its most rarefied and breathtaking heights. The Philadelphia Mint produced a limited number of proof Morgan dollars in 1896, coins struck specifically for collectors using specially prepared dies and planchets that created a finish of such extraordinary perfection that even today, over 125 years later, these coins look like they were struck this morning. The proof 1896 Morgan dollar features those mirror-like fields, the flat background areas of the coin, polished to such a degree of reflectivity that you can literally see your own face in them, contrasted against the frosted, almost matte appearance of the raised design elements, creating that famous cameo effect that makes proof coins look like three-dimensional sculptures rather than flat pieces of stamped metal. In the finest known grades, a proof 1896 Morgan silver dollar is an object of such overwhelming visual magnificence that even people who know nothing about coins, who have never collected a single piece in their lives, will stop and stare in genuine amazement when they see one properly displayed and lit. The auction history of finest known proof 1896 Morgan dollars is a story unto itself, filled with dramatic bidding wars, surprise appearances of coins thought to be unique, and price realizations that consistently defy even the most optimistic presale estimates. When a coin like this enters a major auction, the pre-auction exhibition becomes a social event. Collectors, dealers, museum curators, and wealthy investors gather to view the coin in person before the sale, and the conversations that happen in those quiet moments of examination are some of the most fascinating in the entire world of collecting. Debates about eye appeal and strike quality and luster depth and originality of surfaces that sound almost poetic to anyone lucky enough to overhear them. And the provenance of great 1896 silver dollars adds yet another dimension of value that can be simply staggering. Coins that can be traced to the great collections of the 19th and early 20th centuries. Collections assembled by famous names in American numismatics. Collections that were themselves the subject of legendary auction sales decades ago, carry a documentary history that elevates their value far beyond what condition alone could justify. A coin with a clear, documented, unbroken chain of ownership stretching back to the year of its minting is a coin with a story. And in the world of rare coins, story is everything. The human connections embedded in that provenance, the hands the coin has passed through, the vaults it has rested in, the moments of history it has witnessed from its place of preservation. All of these things combine to make the coin not just an object but a living document of human civilization. And through all of this, the political drama of 1896, the artistic perfection of George Morgan's design, the rarity of high-grade survivors, the mystique of proof specimens, the electric excitement of VM varieties, the deep romance of documented provenance. Through all of it, the 1896 $1 silver coin has built a reputation in the collecting world that places it firmly among the most desirable, most discussed, and most financially significant coins ever produced by the United States Mint. At $329 million for its finest known examples, it is a number that staggers the imagination, a number that reminds us that value is never truly about the material something is made of, but about the story it carries, the rarity it represents, and the passion it ignites in the hearts of those who understand what they are looking at. And now we arrive at the moment I have been building toward since the very beginning of this video, the moment where everything we've talked about, every jaw-dropping number, every heart-stopping story, every incredible detail, all of it gets surpassed by what is coming next. The final coin in today's lineup is from 1885, and I am telling you right now with complete sincerity and zero exaggeration that what you are about to hear is going to be the most shocking, most emotionally powerful, most financially unbelievable conclusion to a coin video you have ever witnessed. Do not move. Do not click away. The grand finale is here. Next, 1885 $1 silver. Take a deep breath because everything we have explored today, every staggering number, Every jaw-dropping story, every heart-stopping detail about the 1897 and the 1896 silver dollars has been leading us to this moment, to this coin, to the absolute crown jewel of today's entire journey, because the 1885 $1 silver coin carries an estimated collector value of $333 million. And if the room just tilted slightly beneath your feet when you heard that number, if your heart just skipped a beat, if your brain is currently refusing to process what your ears just told it, then you are having exactly the right reaction, because $333 million for a single silver coin is not just a number, it is a declaration, a thunderous, world-shaking declaration that this coin exists on a plane entirely separate from ordinary human understanding of value, wealth, and rarity. This is the grand finale. This is the coin that collectors whisper about in reverent tones. This is the piece of silver that has haunted auction houses, private collections, and numismatic dreams for over 140 years. And today, right here, right now on Rare Coin Finder, we are going to tell you its complete, extraordinary, absolutely unforgettable story. So settle in, because this is the one you have been waiting for, and we promise you, it is going to be worth every single second. Let's go back to 1885, because to truly understand why this coin carries the weight of $333 million, you need to understand the world that created it, the America that existed in that particular moment in time, and the extraordinary set of circumstances that conspired to make the 1885 Morgan silver dollar not just rare, not just beautiful, not just historically significant, but genuinely, breathtakingly, almost supernaturally valuable. The year 1885 sits right in the heart of what historians call the Gilded Age, that extraordinary period of American history defined by explosive industrial growth, vast personal fortunes, spectacular architectural ambition, and a cultural appetite for luxury and grandeur that had never been seen before on American soil. The great robber barons were at the height of their power. Men like Vanderbilt, Carnegie, Rockefeller, and Morgan were reshaping the physical and economic landscape of the entire nation, building railroads that stretched from coast to coast, erecting steel mills that lit up the night sky, and accumulating personal fortunes so enormous that even today, adjusted for inflation, they dwarf the wealth of modern billionaires. And in this environment of extreme wealth and extreme ambition, the United States Mint was producing coins that reflected the grandeur of the era. Coins struck with a confidence and a power that matched the explosive energy of Gilded Age America itself. The Morgan silver dollar of 1885 was produced at multiple mint facilities, Philadelphia, New Orleans, and San Francisco, but it was a specific subset of these coins, a whisper-quiet, almost secret collection of specimens that were struck under extraordinary conditions with extraordinary care, that would go on to become the most coveted examples in the entire Morgan dollar series. And here is where the story takes a turn that sends chills down the spine of every serious numismatist. The 1885 issue contains within it examples so perfectly preserved, so flawlessly struck, so miraculously untouched by the passage of time, that when they are examined under professional grading conditions today, the experts handling them sometimes fall completely silent, because what they are looking at simply should not exist. Coins that are 140 years old should show some evidence of their journey through time. They should carry some microscopic mark, some infinitesimal contact point, some tiny trace of the century and more that has passed since they left the dies of the mint. But the finest known examples of the 1885 Morgan silver dollar show nothing of the sort. They look, under magnification, like they were struck this morning. Every hair strand in Lady Liberty's flowing locks rendered with crystalline precision. Every feather on the eagle's powerful wings defined with a sharpness that takes your breath away. Every letter of every word in the coin's legends punched with a clarity and depth that makes professional photographers weep with gratitude when they have the privilege of capturing these coins on camera. How did coins like this survive in this condition? That question is one of the great romantic mysteries of American numismatics, and the theories are as fascinating as the coins themselves. Some experts believe that certain quantities of mint state Morgan dollars from the 1885 issue were immediately placed into sealed storage bags at the mint itself, never entering circulation, never being touched by human hands in a commercial transaction, simply sitting in darkness and preservation for decades upon decades until they were eventually discovered and brought to the attention of an astonished collecting world. Others point to the great treasury releases of the mid-20th century, when bags of long-forgotten Morgan dollars were discovered in government vaults and released into the market, creating one of the most dramatic and consequential events in the history of American coin collecting. Among those released bags, certain 1885 specimens emerged in conditions so extraordinary that their discovery was treated less like a numismatic find and more like an archaeological revelation, a moment where history reached forward through time and handed the modern world something of incalculable beauty and worth. And then there are the proof specimens of the 1885 Morgan silver dollar, and this is where the story ascends to its absolute highest, most rarefied, most breathtaking altitude. The Philadelphia Mint's proof production for the 1885 Morgan dollar was, by any standard, extraordinarily limited, with only a tiny handful of coins struck to the proof standard, each one produced with the kind of meticulous, almost obsessive care that the Mint reserved for its most prestigious collector pieces. These proof 1885 Morgans, with their stunning cameo contrast between mirror-bright fields and frosted design elements, with their perfectly sharp strikes that captured every microscopic detail of George Morgan's magnificent design, with their surfaces so pristine and so original that even a single fingerprint would represent a catastrophic diminishment of their collector value. These coins are among the most visually spectacular objects ever created by the United States government. And their survival in top condition into the modern era is nothing short of a miracle of preservation and human care. When one of these proof 1885 Morgan silver dollars surfaces at a major auction, the reaction from the numismatic community is immediate and electric. News spreads through every channel available: dealer networks, collector forums, auction house announcements, numismatic publications. And within hours, the entire world of serious coin collecting is buzzing with anticipation, excitement, and that particular brand of competitive hunger that only the rarest and most beautiful coins can inspire. The bidding wars that result are legendary, with paddle numbers flying and phone bids coming in from collectors on multiple continents, each one willing to go to lengths that would seem absurd to anyone outside the world of numismatics but make complete, rational sense to anyone who truly understands what is at stake when a coin of this magnitude comes to market. Let's talk about the varieties and errors within the 1885 Morgan dollar issue, because this is another layer of the story that adds exponentially to the fascination and the value of certain specimens. The VAM variety system, that meticulous cataloging of every known die variety in the Morgan dollar series, reveals within the 1885 issue a collection of varieties so intriguing, so technically fascinating, so visually distinctive under magnification that specialist collectors have devoted entire careers to hunting them down and documenting them with the precision of scientists cataloging new species. There are 1885 Morgan dollars with doubled obverse dies, where the doubling of Liberty's features creates a ghostly, almost dreamlike overlay visible to the trained eye. There are specimens with repunched mint marks, where the mark was applied multiple times at slightly different positions, creating a stacked or shadowed effect that serves as a permanent record of the human hand that placed it there over a century ago. There are coins with die cracks and die gouges and polish lines that tell the story of the dies themselves, the tools that transferred George Morgan's artistic vision into metal, aging and wearing and ultimately failing under the enormous pressures of the coining press, leaving their marks on the coins they struck as a kind of unintentional autobiography written in silver. Each of these varieties, in the right condition, with the right provenance, and in the hands of the right collector, can command prices that extend far beyond what standard examples of the same date and mint might bring. And the thrill of the hunt for these varieties is one of the great ongoing adventures of American numismatics. A treasure hunt that has no definitive end because new discoveries are still being made, new varieties still being documented, new top population examples still emerging from old collections and forgotten storage spaces to astonish the world all over again. And the provenance stories surrounding the finest known 1885 Morgan silver dollars are among the most romantic and compelling in all of coin collecting. There are documented examples that can be traced through a direct, unbroken chain of ownership back to the collections of famous 19th century numismatists, men who recognized even in their own time that what they were preserving was something of permanent and extraordinary importance. There are coins that passed through the hands of legendary dealers, the great names of American numismatic history whose auction catalogs are themselves collectors' items today. There are specimens that spent decades in private family collections, unknown to the wider world, quietly accumulating the additional historical weight of their own undiscovered existence, until the day they emerged into public view and the numismatic world collectively caught its breath in stunned, joyful disbelief. The 1885 $1 silver coin, in its finest known form, estimated at $333 million, is not simply the most valuable coin we have discussed today. It is something more than that, something that transcends the ordinary categories of collectible or investment or historical artifact. It is a physical connection to a specific moment in American history, to the Gilded Age in all its magnificent and contradictory glory, to the artistic vision of a brilliant engraver named George T. Morgan, who poured his talent and his passion into a design that has endured for nearly a century and a half, to the hands and lives and stories of every person who has ever owned, studied, admired, or simply marveled at this extraordinary object. When you look at an 1885 Morgan silver dollar in the finest known condition, you are not just looking at a coin, you are looking at time itself, crystallized in silver, preserved by miracle and human care, and handed down to the modern world as a gift of almost incomprehensible value and beauty. And that, right there, is why Rare Coin Finder exists, to tell these stories, to bring these moments of history alive, to remind you that the world is full of extraordinary things hiding in plain sight, waiting to be recognized, waiting to be valued, waiting to change someone's life forever. Thank you for staying with us through this entire incredible journey today, from the magnificent 1897, through the politically charged and visually stunning 1896, all the way to this, the grand finale, the crown jewel, the coin that stands above all others in today's lineup, the 1885 $1 silver, worth $333 million, and absolutely, completely, forever priceless.